Don't know if any of you have seen the clip making the rounds on social media. This is from Billet Labs. This bloke here built a rather interesting PC. As you know, most modern PCs need a pretty hefty coolant system. Mine in particular has a radiator with cooling fans in the front. Well, Billet Labs decided to build a gaming PC. Cooling system, however, is a bit interesting. He's using a Victorian-era cast iron radiator. I like the process of people building things like this. I find that very interesting. This is an hour-long video. I don't know if we'll watch the whole thing, but I do want to get through portions of it. You can do that? That is sick. Ah, he figured out a way. You should check out Slime Core Radio. Already have. Already subscribe. We have reacted to, I believe, Cruel Angel's 3,000 Year Promise previously. But yeah. Cast iron radiator gaming PC from Billet Labs. 3, 2, 1. Go. That's a heavy bugger, isn't it? I mean, it is cast iron, weighs a ton.
Oh, hey guys.
Hello.
This is my new cast iron radiator.
Lovely.
And I'm going to turn it into a water-cooled gaming PC.
Oh? And how are you going to manage that,
Now, there
I
are some
wonder?
very good reasons why people don't normally use these for PC cooling. One, they are catastrophically heavy, and two,
Yes.
cast iron rusts pretty much immediately, so the insides are always filthy. This particular one is not a reproduction.
true.
I think it's actually from the Victorian era, so the inside
Brilliant.
is really going to be all rust.
Ugh.
But I am going to attempt
Gross.
to design around those problems and make an awesome looking PC that doesn't just work temporarily as an experiment, but is an actual usable long-term gaming PC for my.
I think if you were to get it like sandblasted and treated, you could probably take care of the rust that way. It looks cool. There's a vintagey sci-fi look to it. Yeah, very steampunk. This is very steampunk.
Myself. And if I can make it work, this is going to have some massive advantages over a standard PC radiator. Firstly, the thermal mass is absolutely insane. There's about 10 litres of water in here, plus about 50 kilograms
That's a
of cast
lot of
iron,
water.
meaning any temperature spikes are going to be smoothed out to the point where you don't even notice them. And secondly, it looks awesome.
It is fucking awesome.
So something I really need to be conscious of when planning out the aesthetic side of the build is that this is a beautiful 100-year-old work of art. And if I just take a load
Absolutely.
of modern PC components and stick them to it, I'm going to be ruining what I love about this
Yeah,
radiator.
don't do
So my
that.
plan is to basically take all the PC components, so the motherboard, the GPU and the power supply, and mount them as invisibly as possible on the bottom. I'm then going to water cool everything using copper.
Okay. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works. You could pump a chemical solution through it to lift the rust off the iron, which is a common method. Yeah, no, there's lots of treatments for existing rust and also rust prevention that you could probably do with this. Make it, it won't come out stainless steel, but it'll be the next best thing. It'll be as good as.
Pipes. I've also got some really nice quality analog temperature and pressure gauges.
I know because I used to be an industry and industrial practicant. Ah, I see. So you know better than anyone.
And if everything goes well, I will hopefully build a PC that is worthy of this massive monstrosity. So having done some very rough calculations and quite a lot of guesswork, I've
I'm sorry, wall of text? Can we see that
having
again?
done some very rough calculations and quite a lot of guesswork,
There are no available stats for this radiator because it's over 100 years old. Other cast iron radiators with similar surface area are rated between 700 watts and 860 watts at delta T 50, meaning they achieve those wattages when the water is 50 degrees Celsius hotter than the air. The lower the delta T value, the lower the wattage rating, assuming an ambient air temperature at around 20 degrees Celsius. Delta T equals 50 means the water would be 70 degrees Celsius, far too hot. Maximum 50 degrees Celsius considered acceptable for water cooling, 40 degrees Celsius preferable. Therefore, we want a maximum delta T value of 30, but would prefer delta T value at 20. So 50 degrees Celsius water minus 20 degrees Celsius ambient, or 40 degrees Celsius water minus 20 degrees ambient. Converting at delta T 50 wattage value, blah, 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 blah. Taking a lower bound of a 700 watt radiator at delta T 20, so blah, blah, blah. Radiators mostly bare metal, therefore worse at emitting heat than a painted one at the above wattage spec that it's based on. Therefore, the values will be slightly lower than the above, though cannot find data to calculate this. Also, his home is in the attic, so it gets very hot in the summer. 30 degrees Celsius on a very hot day. I can't even imagine. I'm so spoiled by American air conditioning. Therefore, only the lower delta T 20 value, 50 degrees centigrade water, minus 30 degrees centigrade ambient, can be achieved during certain times of the year. Mineral oils are better as it's good for the metal's long-term lifespan. That makes sense.
I've roughly calculated that a cast iron radiator about this size can output somewhere between 200 and 400 watts of heat. And while the thermal mass of it means it's probably going to be able to cool anything for an hour or so, once it gets up to temperature, cooling something like a 5090 is probably out of the question. But I've decided to try and push it as far as I can.
5090 GPU, I believe, is the latest and greatest graphics card. I mean, I think I've got like a 4070 in my computer. Suggesting an induction furnace because that allows for uniform heating, preventing cracking caused by uneven heating, which could damage it or even cause it to explode due to heat differences, as in violently break apart. But this is an oversimplification. Aha.
So I've gone for a 5080 and a 9800 X3D, which is going to be more than enough for the sort of gaming that I'm planning on doing. They are going to be running through a
state-of-the-art
Aorus Pro B850i motherboard and power.
B850 motherboard, okay. Yeah, AMD chipset, okay, that all makes sense. At first I didn't recognize B850, was like, oh wait, it's AMD.
Powered by a Flex ATX.
I'm on an Intel chipset myself.
Power supply. So let's have a look at the bottom and try and figure out a way to mount everything to this. And this is maybe the worst possible thing to try and mount PC components to. There's not a single flat surface and not a single hole that I can bolt anything to.
Tricky,
in terms of the layout, I'm thinking the power supply here, the motherboard there next to it, and then the GPU, which will eventually be in this AlphaCool Core water block.
Yeah. He's going to need some sort of mounting or some brackets of some kind. Or put another way, he's going to need some sort of scaffolding to mount all of that. You can't just try and screw it into the radiator itself. That's just not going to work, and it's also going to cause leaks, and it's going to destroy his PC when the water runs through it. Don't take my words for any of that. I only did archive and understood what was written down by his logic and wording, not how the actual processes work. I've no in-industry and experience or expertise. I'm just a random former archivist. That's all right. You still got a leg up on the rest of us, Harold.
On the end here. That way all the IOs will be lined up along the back. Looking from the front of the radiator, you won't really see too much of it because you'll be looking from above. So I have an idea. I think I am going to 3D scan the bottom of the radiator.
God, I would be wanting to wear like steel toes or something if I'm handling that. He's in socks and no shoes. That thing falls on his foot. He is going to break his foot. And health and safety would have many questions for him. A big frame, probably a lot of testing without electronics to check for leaks or bubbles. Oh yeah, you want to check for leaks with something like this for sure. Well, it's over 100 years old. It's got rust in it. He's lucky it doesn't have any sort of holes or anything that could like spout out some mist or something.
And then model up something that should mount everything in place. And I'm using my blue laser scanner, which relies on these little dots to be able to locate itself in 3D space. So once I've applied those to the bottom of the radiator, I can start scanning. And this should be accurate to about a 20th of a millimeter.
That is so neat. I didn't even know they had tech like that yet. I thought you had to... I mean, I knew they had 3D scanners of some kind, but handheld like that? That's amazing. You know, I was thinking you'd have to have some sort of big, huge setup. You know, an open-air cube of some kind, but you have to set that in, set up all your dots and things, and just have these scanners very slowly make their way down, cross all angles, to try and pick all this up. The fact that he can do that with a hand scanner, that is incredible. You could get in legal trouble here for doing it without proper footwear if it came to be known by legal firms. We've got regulations on private DIY stuff here. Yeah, big daddy government. Always sticking their nose where it doesn't belong.
And I'm scanning with a resolution of about 0.5 millimeter.
That's amazing that he can do
surface,
that.
Which I trimmed
with
out
a hand
slightly within the
scanner.
scanning software.
I didn't even think we were there
Then
yet.
I import that into Blender and neaten up some of the edges and the geometry that I know I don't need. I then thicken the surface so it becomes a three-dimensional object with some volume before importing that into Fusion and spending a lot longer than I thought to make a single part that should mount everything that I need. Now, my 3D printer is tiny, so massive thanks to my mate Abe, who allowed me to print this on his printer.
And that's made out of, what is that? Some sort of powdered metal or something? I mean, I'd heard of powdered steel that they use for fabrication, but is that metal? Is that 3D printed metal?
It took about 30 hours. And here
That is
the
amazing.
print in 2 pieces. And if I haven't messed anything up, these should... Oh
No,
my god.
That sounds like plastic.
God. That is unbelievably satisfying.
Fits like a glove.
No wobble at all. That's worked so well. So then I've got a bit of assembly work to do, just adding in some threaded inserts.
Resin. Ah, I see. Okay. Yeah. Judging by the sound, it sounded like it was some sort of plastic or resin, yeah. But for a second there, it almost looked like it was fabricated from metal. I guess we're not there yet. There are metal 3D printers, but they aren't expensive. Makes sense. Makes sense. That sort of tech is not quite ready for consumer grade yet, is it? Wouldn't surprise me if it was some form of polymer, which is plastic-like or even just straight-up plastic. I think that's what we're dealing with here, yeah. But it fits so well on that old radiator. There was no give on that whatsoever.
And then gluing the 2 halves together to make one cohesive part.
Okay.
So there is the fully assembled piece. And that just slots in like that. Then to mount it, I've got...
The thing that worries me, if it's made out of resin, I wonder what the temperature limits are on that sort of resin. Because you're dealing with components on a PC that can get really hot. And if that's a lower quality resin, that whole bracket is just going to melt. So hopefully he's using a high quality resin that can stand up to high temperatures. Polymers are generally just more durable plastic-like materials. Hopefully it's durable enough, yeah? Same with plastic, I'm judging on the sound of it, yeah. That sort of clattering sound. Dull clattering sound. Of course, he wouldn't want to use expensive materials on early prints before he had time to adjust the print design and go through testing before the final design to save money on materials. Makes sense. That makes sense.
6 of these pieces, which I've modelled up to mirror the profile of this central piece. So I need to bolt these on
beautiful
underneath.
Yes.
Kind of fiddly to get these on. So that is all very securely mounted, and it almost looks like it's part of the casting of the radiator, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm super happy with that. Now, because the motherboard, CPU, and power supply all need to sit lower than the central spine of the radiator, there's actually some space above them for some 120mm fans, but only if those fans are at maximum 12mm thick. So
it's going to be a tricky fit, but he can do it.
Introducing the...
So to a burning plastic frame. Thanks for better video content, yes.
Fanner F12012 Super Thin. And as far as I know, these are
the
thinnest fans that you can buy. And I've left space to slide in 3
Those
of
are
these.
skinny
Whether it will
fans.
help significantly with cooling the radiator, I'm not sure. But it might just stop those small fans in the motherboard and the power supply coming on quite as much. So now we can mount some of the other components. And we've got our tiny little power supply that just slides in here.
I love
and then
that.
we've got our motherboard. And then the GPU is next. And rather than a riser cable, I've actually bought this PCIe Gen 5 riser card, which is just going to stop any ugly riser cables hanging down below the PC. And to mount the GPU, I've got these threaded standoffs as part of the base. And I'll probably be doing some kind of custom bracket on there. But for now, just to hold it in place, I'm just using some washers. And the pump will be here.
That's all you
it's
need
still
starting
in post,
out.
so I've just got this placeholder piece. And then
Nice
the final
bit of
thing
copper
I need
there.
before I can start plumbing is going to be a CPU cooler. And once again, we're using our own
Water
Billet
block.
Labs prototype CPU cooler for AM5. And yes, sorry, we still haven't launched this yet. It's been a long journey.
Well, get on
This
it, lad.
might be the best performing CPU cooler ever made, but we think we can get it even better. So bear with us. When it's as perfect as it can possibly be, we will launch it. All right, let's
Ready
get
up,
it
man.
up and check that we're happy with everything. So there is the rear I/O.
We've still got some ground clearance. That's good.
That is exactly what I wanted. And then
My concern was that it was going to be everything underneath was going to be so low to the ground it would be scraping the table, the floor, all of that. But no, that's still enough room to work with. Yeah, do it. Why not place the radiator in a water tank connected to another water tank with the water constantly pumping between them, and maybe in a freezer? That sounds like a brilliant idea. Also sounds like it would take a lot more electricity than I think they're willing to put in. And you have to remember, I believe he's based out of the UK. So even things like air conditioning, I mean, like we saw in the notes, he's up in an attic, gets really hot in the summertime, and aircon's not really a thing over there. So something like a freezer, probably even less of a thing. But that's just stupid environmental regulations that just keep them from doing the sensible thing of having proper central heating and air.
Round to the front, you can see the pump there as you come down, and then once we add like more copper bits and stuff coming out of that pump, that's going to look awesome. Okay, now it's my favourite part of the build. It's plumbing time.
Don't do that again, that's creepy.
It's going to start here. So this is a 1/2-inch thread. Sorry, I just realised I haven't actually explained what I'm doing with the plumbing, so none of this is going to make any sense. So here is a 2-minute 14-second explanation of what I'm doing, and then we'll get back to the plumbing. So here is our PC, and here is our radiator. And how do we make a water loop that doesn't take all the rust and the from here and push it through here? Now, obviously, we're going to thoroughly clean the radiator, but even after that, we're going to need this, which is a filter with a 0.1mm mesh inside it. So anything that...
Seems like he's going to be swapping out that filter rather often. Shot in the dark on that, but that... I mean, it's simple filter. You can probably get it at a hardware store anywhere. But, I don't know. I don't think I'd want to have to keep swapping out a filter like that just to keep the water clean. So I give you... I don't know.
Gets through here, will also get through here without doing any harm. So let's put one of those in. Then we have the issue, how do we fill up a PC and bleed the air out of it when it weighs over 60 kilograms? Well, we need to figure out how to...
Don't like his earrings or finger rings or the random stuff he paints on his nails. Feels too inner city to me and kind of gay, millennial, hipsterish. Yeah, kind of getting those vibes. I do believe he seems like he's of that age, that he's of the millennial generation. But yeah, very, very urbanite hipster. Chemical clean, isn't there a cooling fluid that isn't water to prevent rust? You would think so. I think it does exist. And you can put it through liquid cooling systems in PCs. Seems like that would be the most sensible thing to do. But that's just me. I don't know. I think the emphasis here, he wants to do it water-cooled through an antique Victorian radiator. Perhaps in his mind, he thinks using some sort of chemical coolant would maybe defeat the purpose. I don't know.
Fill it without moving it. Now the radiator already has a little bleed port in the top, so if we're filling it up, we can remove this to let the air out of it. But how do we fill it up? Now we've done this before by using a tap and a T-piece either side. That way you can attach 2 tubes to an external reservoir and suck air through one tube, which will pull water through the other one, filling the loop. And then once the water is at the pump, you activate the pump until the entire loop is full, before then opening the tap again and the PC is running on its own coolant. Then you take these away, plug the holes. But because of the sort of PC I'm building, I want to be able to do this separately, both with the radiator and the PC, or all at the same time. So my plan is this. So the first time I fill this, I will unplug this T-piece, put a pipe here suspended in an external reservoir. Then I will close this tap and this tap, suck air through this hose, pulling the water from the external reservoir into the PC, and eventually...
creating a sort of vacuum seal. I put a T-piece with a ventily piece and then have 2 different filter units. You can switch between the ventil so when you're replacing one, you can run through the other so that you don't have to stop everything and empty the pipes to switch filter. Yeah, I can't imagine how tricky it's going to be to have to replace those filters. Hopefully it's easier than we think. We'll see.
Will come out of this hose. I will then open this tap and this bleed valve on the top of the radiator, activate the pump in the PC, and that will draw coolant through here, through the PC, and fill up the radiator till it's at the top. Once I can see that it's full through the hole here, I will
Most are
then
not
open
particularly
this tap,
expensive.
and
That's
the
good.
radiator water will go back through into the PC. I'll then leave it running for a while, top up more coolant through this hose if I need to, and then finally close the radiator. I can then close all 4 taps to be able to remove these hoses and plug them without water pouring everywhere. Then in future, if I need to perform maintenance on the PC,
Don't want
or
that.
I want to flush the water through there separately, I can remove the plugs, put these hoses on, close these 2 taps, and flush water through there. Or I can open both of these taps, close both of these taps, and flush all the water through the radiator if I need to. Okay, back to the actual plumbing now. So this is a 1/2" thread. I've got a 1/2" to 1/4" adapter, then a 1/4" right angle. And 1/4" plumbing thread in the UK, or anywhere that uses British standard plumbing fittings, is the same as a G1/4 fitting, which is the water cooling standard. So into here goes one of our brass rotary fittings. And for mocking up, I leave them unassembled. It just makes it way easier to remove and put pipe back on. We're then going to be using our solder-in brass G1/4 fittings, which are designed to fit in the end of standard 15mm copper pipe. And I think I'm going to start with this 45, so I'm going to be cleaning and fluxing the pipe as I go, so that once I've got it in the right position, I don't need to disassemble it again. So after here, I want to go for another 45 to bring that back into line like this. And I want this pipe to come round and sit centrally in this kind of circular loop section in the
I'm
radiator.
surprised they don't need some sort of seals on each of the ends. Or maybe he's going to put those on later, I'm not sure. Hopefully it wouldn't involve problems he can't generate more content from solving, quote unquote. Yeah, sometimes some content creators, they do like to make extra problems for themselves to make more content.
To there. I've got a long radius bend rather than a sharp bend because I think that's going to look better with the scale of the thing that we're working on.
Yeah, a bit smoother, that one.
Okay, I think we're ready to solder that. So I solder like
That's how
every
he's doing
6
it,
months
okay.
when I do a PC build. So I'm always
Rather
out
than
of
rubber
practice.
seals, he just solders it
the
all.
first one usually looks like so I have incredibly shaky hands.
Okay. Makes sense.
I mean, it looks airtight.
Well, why don't you run some water
And
through
then
it to
from
make
here,
sure?
we are going to bend this back round. And then our valve and drain port combo.
That bit, right there, chat. Careful.
I did forget that
Don't
this
roast
was
your
made of
PC.
plastic, and it's gone a bit shiny on the surface, but no harm done. Then
Oh, well
next up,
done.
I'm going to bring it back round this way, along here. But I think I'm actually
He will probably solder them together. Forgot to mention that. Ah, yeah. As we've seen.
also going to put a T-piece in before that so that I can make kind of a DIY magnetic filter as well, which should catch anything that's magnetic before it gets to here. And rust
That
will
would
be
be bad.
magnetic, so that might help, but I can't put in a full-size magnetic filter because they're absolutely massive and it wouldn't fit. Yeah, that looks good.
Ah, not bad.
Let's do it.
It's smooth. It was a rather smooth looking system.
So I think
It
I
all just
actually
sort
need
of
to
flows.
properly do up these compression fittings now so that everything is rigid, so that this last bit is as accurate as it can be.
Okay, feeling up, that's good. Really putting his back into that one. He's getting a workout for sure.
Pipe, we've just got this last little bit which needs removing and soldering.
And then the camera battery died. But he finished and it went okay.
So with it back the right way up, you can see how this is going to look. Obviously, it needs a very good clean and stuff, but I'm really liking it so far. I like that this line kind of continues along here. But the next part I need to figure out is the outlet.
Flows.
Probably into the CPU
No pun
block, but I
intended.
might do the GPU first. I haven't decided yet, because what I need to figure out first is the temperature and the pressure gauges, which I want kind of poking out here. Now this build is going to be on the floor in the right corner of the room. So on both of these gauges, if I can, tilted up slightly and tilted left slightly, which is going to be
That's going to be tricky.
hard. That
Yeah.
is going to be the first bit, and it's all very wobbly. Then next up, we're going to need one of them, then one of them, then one of them,
Right.
then one of them,
Right.
then one of them, then one of them, then one of them, then one of them, and one of them, and one of them. Then that should let us.
And don't forget one of them.
And one of them. I do clean and flux all my joints, by the way. I just don't usually show you because it's not the most riveting thing to watch, but this is me doing that. Right, that's good.
Okay. Then one of them. Wonder if he could get into legal trouble over water damage risk from water pipe work done by a non-industry professional over lower stories. Don't know. It's possible, given the British government, given local council government even. Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps there's an exception because it's just something he's building for personal use. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, you can be held liable for potential future water damage if you do pipe work yourself, but in some cases it cannot be protected under the law if you install your dishwasher yourself. What a sad state of affairs when you can't even install your own dishwasher, even if you know how to do it. Sounds like absolute hell.
Sake. Yeah, that's good. Stay together.
Don't drop it.
Okay. It's just a wet rag, and I'm wrapping around the already soldered parts to make sure I don't remelt them during the soldering of bits that are very close to it.
Oh, the sizzle, not the steak.
We've got a lot to still fit in here. So we still need to fit our second valve and port combo somewhere. And I could put it on top of stuff like this, but that would mean the distance from the floor to the opening of the valve is going to be very small, which means I can't easily fit.
Chance and Javian, thank you so much for the follow. Do a flip. No.
To hose on it to fill and drain stuff without raising the build off the floor, which ideally I don't want to do. On top of that, this pipe we've just made needs to go into the inlet of the GPU block, which is the further away one. So I think I'm going to put these here, then continue this pipe, then I can still just about access those two valves and the drain and fill port. And there's the rest of that laid out going into the inlet of the GPU. So I'm going to attempt to remove this all in one go without it moving. Oh. Okay, let's see if that still fits.
So far, so good. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Yes.
Right, now we need GPU outlet to CPU, and I'm thinking I'll use one of them to get over that because I think that'll look cool, although
Sensible.
that might hit the RAM. It's gonna be so close, but it's probably okay. Future Felix here, it's not okay, don't do it.
Oh no.
Yeah. So about 5 mil less than that. That looks good. No, too short. It's too low. 4 mil longer. That's the one. Yeah, I like that.
Took some work, but he got there.
Now not fit?
Eventually.
Stretch it all out a little bit. Beautiful.
Okay. Soldering.
Perfect. Then the final pipe may be the hardest one. No, that was the hardest one. No, that was the hardest one. The third
It's all hard, man.
the second
It's all
easier
hard.
pipe is next. I'm going from CPU block.
But there's no easy
up,
mode with
down
this.
here, through here, through this thing that's going to be under there.
Always asking you to do a flip. Yeah, why don't you do a flip, mate? Oh, it is. Most new homeowners are people building their own houses or summer houses or buying stuff for their apartments or student dwellings do not know until it happens. Oh, that's just silly, isn't it? Maybe you can make a flip redeem that makes your model spin top to bottom sideways, front staying forward facing. Maybe? I don't know. That seems like that would take some extra work that I'm just not in the mood to do at this stage, but we'll see. I don't know. 1,000 followers and 50 subs, and I'll consider it. Make it cost like 100,000 channel points. There's a thought.
There, out here, round the side, and back into the back of the radiator. Right, so I'm going to solder that as it is, just so that's all in one rigid piece, then we'll carry on.
Okay.
Not really sure what to do next. I guess this bit has to be here, so may as well connect that up. That's the one. So to finish this last tube, I'm basically going to copy this side on the other side.
Gosh, so dramatic.
Now I'm just joining up the pipe I've just done into the end of this compression fitting, and then that will be all of the plumbing done.
That looks a lot cleaner than anything I can manage. Gently now, gently. Steady. Okay, got the dials.
So with all the plumbing done, we now need to clean it all because I'm not the neatest plumber. This one is particularly bad, but it's okay because we just need to do a bit of this, then a bit of this,
And a bit of this.
then a bit of this.
Followed by a bit of this. And maybe a little bit of that.
Using my lovely polishing sock.
You can do with this, or you can do with
That
that.
is
I'll bet you do with this, and then you do with that.
Neat looking pipe. So I've just got to do the rest of them now.
Godspeed, mate. You're gonna need it.
And
Several
about 5
hours later.
Here is all of the solder that I've managed
Polishing
to
sock?
outside the
Yeah.
pipes. And then
Officially,
here
that's
are
what it's
all
called.
my shiny pipes. And I've polished all of the fittings as well, just so they blend in a bit better.
You do remember where everything goes, yes? I hope so.
So now with all of our shiny pipes back on, that gives me a much better idea about what the overall finished build is going to look like, which
Okay.
puts me in a much better position to do some of the final visual tweaks to the build and some of the components.
Righto. Alright.
Actually, I should probably do the wiring first.
Yeah. That's important. Yeah.
So starting from the top or the bottom from this view is our 3 fans. So I'm using a 3-way fan splitter. And when I do the final assembly, I'll probably cable tie these in place. But the wiring I'm doing now is just to see if I need to make any custom length fan extenders or wires of any kind. And it turns out I don't. Everything fits really neatly. And next
lovely.
up, I'm going to wire the pump. Now, one of the reasons that I'm using this Gigabyte motherboard is that it has 2 amp fan headers, which is incredibly rare, especially on an ITX motherboard. That means that I can run this 20 watt DDC pump directly off the motherboard without having to have a separate wire going to the power supply. So I'm swapping the original wiring with a correctly rated fan extender cable, which will just plug directly into the chassis fan header on the motherboard. Then I tested it, realised I'd got 2 of the wires the wrong way around, so then I tried to switch them over on the PCB and melted the PCB. So
Oh no!
I bought another pump that has the connector pre-installed, and it's exactly the right length, so I should have just done that to start with.
Yeah, you
And the
live and
pump
learn.
just sits inside our water-cooled pump housing, which is going to keep it nice and cool, even with no airflow going over it.
Okay.
So now we can start doing some of the bigger cables, and they're all going to be powered by this.
Oh, metal dust. Great
This
for
is
inhaling.
kind of the
I
holy
know.
grail of
Better than cocaine.
small form factor power supplies. So this is the Enhance ENP7660L-OVT, and it is a Flex
600 watt
ATX form
power
factor, so it's
supply.
absolutely tiny. Here it is next to a standard SFX power supply, so you can see how much smaller it is.
I wonder if they have anything in that size that's like 800 to 1,000 watts. That seems a bit underpowered for, especially for the graphics card he's wanting to use. I don't know. At a minimum, when I had my PC built, I was wanting gold-rated 850 watt power supply at a minimum. I was going off advice from Action Bastard and others who had built PCs before.
Particularly in terms of its height, and it is a 600 watt
I love cocaine. Roxy, probably.
platinum rated fully modular power supply. It
Full disclaimer, chat. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad.
has native 12 volt high
Okay.
power cable connectors. It is PCIe 5.0 and ATX 3.0 compliant, which means you can run 600 watts through this constantly, and the 12-volt high power port will put out 450 watts, so you can run pretty much anything other than a 5090 off this. Now this is the OVT version of the power supply, which means Overtech, and this one, it comes with a full silicon wiring loom, which is just amazing to work with. It's so bendable and it just holds its shape, which means it's brilliant for small form factor builds. They also do a 4-hour burn-in on every power supply they sell, which removes any defects from the production of what's already a very reliable power supply, and they offer custom length cables at the point of purchase. I've got this 15 centimeter long motherboard cable. The Overtech version is also the only one that is independently certified by Cybernetics at both 115 volts and 230 volts. Now, we've never done an advert before on a Billet Labs video because we don't like the idea of telling you to buy something that we don't know anything about, which is why I bought this power supply at full retail price, and it was only once I received it and tested it that I then got in contact with Overtech to ask if we could advertise it for them. So after multiple emails back and forth and a very long conversation with the owner John, during which he proved to me that he knows more about power supplies than I'll ever know, we decided that these were the kind of people whose products we wanted to advertise. So I'm very happy to announce that you can currently get 10% off this power supply on overtech.co.uk with the code BilletLabs, and then by you using that code we'll get a bit of money back, so you'll be helping.
But I do want to feel high. No, they don't do drugs. Don't do them, kids. Yeah.
Us, as well as getting a bit of money off what I genuinely think is the best small form factor power supply that you can buy. So let's wire it up. So my CPU power cable goes in there, then the motherboard cable, then I'm adding my extended GPU cable, then that's going to go through here and into there. Then to keep it all as invisible as possible, I'm going to make a wiring loom or a wiring harness out of all of these. So I'm going to start by cable tying them together.
One can never have too many zip ties, Chad.
Harness tape. I'm just going to wrap it all up. And if you're going to do this yourself, it's important to not use electrical tape, because electrical tape has glue on it, which over time and after being heated gets all sticky and horrible, whereas this stuff does not, which is why this is what they use to make wiring looms that are in your hot engine bay on your car.
Okay, so looks like he does some visual modifications. We're going to skip over to the power button segment.
I'm very happy with it. So we're on to the last thing now before we start the laborious process of cleaning the radiator and filling it. And that last thing is the power button. And this has been something that I've had real trouble deciding on the best thing to do. A lot of you guys have said to use a toggle switch, and the issue with those is that the power button needs to be momentary. If you use a toggle switch, when you put it in the on position, that's essentially the same as pressing your power button down and holding it the entire time you're using your PC, which is not how they work. Now you can get momentary toggle switches, which you press down and they spring back to the top, but you can't really get old antique versions of those, and that's kind of what I want to suit the radiator. Another idea was some kind of valve or tap mounted to the side that you turn. Then you have all the same issues as the toggle switch, meaning that it's not a momentary switch, with the added difficulty of the fact that it isn't any kind of switch, so it would need to be mounted on some kind of back box or plate to conceal a mechanism behind it to actually activate a micro switch somehow. So I went round and round in circles for weeks trying to figure out what to do, until I stumbled upon this thing on eBay. This was sold as an antique brass gear lever. Even the seller didn't know what it was from, so if anyone knows what this actually is, I would be fascinated to find out more. Now I think this has all of the cool factor of a big old toggle switch or a lever, with the massive advantage that it has been designed with these two holes to be surface mountable to something, and it's very open, and it has these holes in the lever, meaning it can be very easy, or easy-ish, for me to make the rest of a custom mechanism for this to activate a micro switch. So let's cue the power button making montage.
We're gonna need a montage, even Rocky had a montage, gonna need a montage, What was that for? I think he added some extra bits in just because he could. Springs. Yes, that'll help. Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're doing. Ah, it springs back into place that way. It's not constantly being pressed. Oh, that is clever. Look at that. Oh, that's perfect.
Ah, why are my hands so big?
Because you're a man. We have big hands. You want small hands, you should have been born a girl. You could do that all day. Then again, so could I.
Yeah. So everything is fabricated now, but it's not properly assembled, because before I put it together for the last time, I need to clean the inside of the radiator. And because this is going to end up in my home, I'm going to do the cleaning and the final assembly
standing on top of that
at
whole
my home,
thing.
which means I now need to transport this home in a car that has no boot. But I got a bit of help from a friendly neighbour at the workshop end of the journey.
Yeah, this is quite hard.
Yeah, it's quite hard.
Where are we going? The bathroom.
He's got no boot in his car?
Fly in front of the bathroom first. Then my friend James came around to help me carry it up the 2 flights of narrow stairs to get it into my flat.
That's a good friend right there. You owe him a couple of pints.
Okay. Yeah, done that, yep.
Breathe.
Right, where's your arse going to go?
Into the camera. There we go.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Amazing. Cheers, mate. So I've decided my bathroom is probably the best place to try and clean the inside of this. And the first thing I'm going to do is just run some water through it.
So
So
that's
now
how
I
you
should
can
be able
manage it.
to turn on my shower and the water will go through the radiator and come out of here, and then that's going into the toilet. Right, what's the first water out going to look like?
Probably all brownish.
That's actually not bad. It's not brown.
Also, please make a mental note. Toilet is clean here. State of it is in several minutes. It's entirely the fault of the radiator, not me. Right. Here we go.
Oh,
He's got a leak.
Then I alternated the water between hot and cold a few times, thinking that the expansion and contraction of the radiator might help to loosen some of the rust. And while I do that, I'm going to hit it with a rubber mallet, which might also
He's gonna hit it with a
some of
hammer.
the loose rust on the inside. I don't really know what I'm doing. There's no guide for doing this.
At least you're honest.
Then I rotated it round a few times, thinking that every time I turn it, there'd be a huge barrage of dust particles coming out of the outlet of the radiator. No, there's not loads of coming out. I'm so confused. And at this point, I was wondering whether the architectural salvage yard where I bought this radiator might have actually flushed the inside already, because I didn't actually see a single particle of any kind coming out through the water. Why is that not dislodging any rust? I think I'm wasting my time here. I'm just going to go straight to the acid.
Possibly.
And I'm using citric acid, which should dissolve rust, and I'm attempting to make somewhere between a 5 and 8% solution. Was not ready for that.
Clarkson will agree with the hammering, as hammer's always the right tool. Exactly.
Radiator a good shake just to make sure it's all mixed up inside. If any of you want to help me to buy a bigger house so that stuff like this is easier, you can help by subscribing to our channel. And the whole time I'm incredibly nervous that I'm going
support
to
him on
hold
his
it slightly
Patreon.
wrong and smash
Or
my
something.
shower screen or chip the toilet or the basin. And I'm manoeuvring it all on scraps of wood because I don't want to take a big gouge out the floor either. How long does 5% citric acid take to dissolve rust? Light to moderate rust in 30 minutes to 4 hours. Heavy rust may require soaking for 1 to 3 days. I think I'll give it 12 hours. And when I got back the next morning, I realised it was under quite a lot of pressure. And after looking into it a bit more, I realised I might be making hydrogen gas. And wanting to avoid having a compressed container of hydrogen gas in my house, the next flushes I didn't seal up like this. That's definitely done something. And then flushing that through until it was clean took about another hour. Then I did a second fill with a slightly higher percentage of acid and left this one for about 30 hours.
Oh.
Then on the third acid flush, I started smelling sulfur in the air. Researched that bit and found out that that is most likely the acid dissolving sulfur impurities in the cast iron, meaning the acid is now attacking the cast iron. So thinking
no.
I'd rather have a dirty radiator than one with a corroded hole in the side of it, I stopped using acid at this point. But there's still some black gunk on the inside, so I attempted to clean that using several flushes of fairy liquid and a lot of shaking to try and dislodge it. And eventually, the water ran clear.
Brilliant.
So, with the radiator clean-ish, we really need to talk about the C word. In particular, the GC word. That's right, it's time to talk about galvanic corrosion and how we're going to avoid it in this build. Copper and aluminium cannot be put together in the same loop. That is about as bad as it gets, and if you have them together, they will corrode. Now, I will experience the same thing with cast iron and copper if I just run
I did not pay very close attention in science class, so did not know that. Fire, flames, pissy-looking water.
But luckily for me, galvanic corrosion problems on this particular combination of materials was solved long before the invention of the computer, because it's used in pretty much every central heating system in the country, and there are multiple products available specifically to solve this problem. So this is Radiator Rust Inhibitor, prevents corrosion and long scale, and it's designed specifically for copper pipes with steel or iron radiators. So all I need to do is get 5 litres of water and add 25 millilitres of this, and I should be fine for years. Then because the radiator was going to be sitting for a couple of days while I assembled the rest of the PC, I thought it'd be best for it to sit not with the remnants of the old water, but with the remnants of the rust-inhibited water. So I poured in what was going to end up being my coolant, gave that a very good slosh around, and then as I emptied that, all of the black, sooty and loads of little rust particles just suddenly started pouring out. This was all the stuff I've been trying to get out of the radiator for the last 2 days. Using this rust-inhibited water, for some reason dislodged all of that, and then came several hours of topping this up with water and rust inhibitor, shaking it around, and then emptying it out. And I basically got it to a point where filling it up with coolant,
They got one hell of a workout from
everything that came out was clear.
I think right here, chat, we're going to pause for a bit. Dinner's ready. I'm going to go grab something to eat real quick because I am hungry, but I will be back shortly. All right, chat, I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Let me get caught up on chat, by the way. Have you seen Leaflet's song Never Gonna March Again? Think you might like it if you haven't heard it. I have heard it. Usually I manage to catch those songs whenever she uploads them the day of. And sometimes if I'm watching her streams, can even observe as she assembles them in front of a live audience. A movie ticket used to cost €5 when my father was a kid. A cone of ice cream is even cheaper than that. Now you can't buy anything for less than €1. €1 is about 100 or years, yeah. Yeah, inflation. It sucks. It's hit all of us. It really has. 20 years ago, the biggest concern in the small countryside town of Usbek, where I'm from, was city people moving there and the kids not being as well raised and behaved as they could be. Doing outrageous things like playing on the road and not greeting people and passing by, having spots on the clothing, not being dressed well when out in public, parents letting the kids roam free. Nowadays, we yearn for going back to the time when those were the main concerns. They sound rather trivial in comparison to what we have to deal with today. Now we've got migrants being put out here to share the national burden, which is funny because our government obviously refused to the same from the EU, shared migration burden. It would be an obviously outrageous thing to accept them in. It would be. They all have to go back. Apparently that's not true for the migrants already on our side of the border. They have to go back. It sucks balls.
I'm a week into cleaning the radiator now, and
a week?
It's not fun. I'm not having a good time.
No, imagine not.
Again, I just take it to a cast iron radiator restoration place who could blast it through, although I've talked to them and they said even if they did do that, it's not going to be completely clean on the inside. So that's fine. I've done the best I can and I'm happy with that. And before we do the final assembly and turn this thing on, I need to quickly update my old 1080p 60Hz TV.
Okay.
And then here's my new setup. So I've got a 4K 144Hz panel. I got 2 new Polk speakers.
Oh, I like the speakers, yeah.
Hidden down here. And then if I'm sitting over here and my game's getting a bit intense, I need to see the screen closer. It also does this.
Well, hey, look at that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
But now I need something to connect to it. So let's build the computer.
Fucking A, man. Final assembly.
And the first thing to do is just to clean off some of the dirt from the radiator, because it's got a lot of watermarks on it from the various cleaning processes. So I'm just giving it a once over with some metal polish.
Bit of polish, yeah. That's the way.
And then you've already seen all of this go on once. So we have our 3D printed case, I guess. Then the fans. Then the pump. And then it's time to build up the motherboard. And I'm assembling what I can in the workshop, and we've got our 9800X3D CPU. And I'm looking forward to people telling me what's wrong with my thermal paste application. Then onto that is going the latest prototype of our CPU water block, which has these tiny little fins. They are 0.2 millimeters each. And it's got a few battle scars from the testing, but I'm okay with that. Then I've got a 2 terabyte drive. Couldn't really justify any more than that, given the price of them at the moment.
I still think it's incredible that we're able to squeeze 2 terabytes of hard drive space onto what really is only slightly larger than an old Sony memory stick. I don't know if anybody remembers memory sticks from Sony. It was their own proprietary memory card that they would put in all of their consumer electronics, except for, I think, their PCs. Well, no, they had slots for those on the PCs. But digital cameras that ran off those. It was very interesting. Do miss those days back when I dreamed of buying a large property in the countryside, not because it would be my only option, because I wanted to build a castle and farm land. Maybe someday. Grow trees intermittently if I had enough of forest to do animal husbandry, raise herds, lend out the land for forestry, hunting, logging, etc. May still be hope. Who knows, maybe there's some other place in the world where you might still be able to do that. Like I always say, it's good to have a love of country, a love of your homeland, a loyalty to that. But no one will blame you if you want to keep your options open, go where you're treated best, and pursue those opportunities elsewhere. I certainly wouldn't blame you. Have that help pay expenditures at cost of building and owning such a property alongside a job, never retire, just meant sitting around with nothing to do as my mind decays, yeah. Length of the extension of it and the weight on the end of that has me worried on what sort of stress has been put on that extending arm thingy. I guess he'll know if the whole thing comes crashing down on him someday. Didn't want to become a retiree pensioner. Wanted to work until I dropped or couldn't anymore. Have it owned by proxy of a fund like a little company. I could train the staff, leadership, etc. of it and leave it to the family by proxy of that fund by majority shares ownership. That sounds like a good plan. Hope you're able to pull it off. Don't have to leave. Could stay and work here at a high salary. Have a summer home in Bulgaria or Poland or Hungary. That's not a bad way to live either, is it?
And 32 gigabytes of RAM. And do you remember
64
when I said
myself?
this? That might hit
But
the RAM.
RAM's expensive.
It's probably okay. Yeah. Now this RAM is noticeably bigger than the RAM I used to mock up the build with. So I thought before I take it all home, I'll check it fits here while I'm still in the workshop. Sake.
No!
So I knew I was going to have to grind down the RAM, and I couldn't quite justify doing that before checking that it works. Please work. Okay, motherboard's on. I have one red light. So I'm just checking that what I have now boots up before I start butchering things. And this is the first time I've tested any of the custom wiring, the GPU since I took it apart, so there was some potential for this to not actually boot. Yes, 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 yes! Hence
Brilliant.
why I'm so happy here. So now I need to grind the RAM down. Lucky it's all made of plastic, I guess. Or is it? Oh, it's not, it's aluminium.
Oh no.
Not my best work. Please. Yes.
It'll do. Well, this point beggars can't be choosers.
Then after all that, I tested it again just to check that I hadn't broken it.
All fingers crossed, chat. Come on. Come on. Boot, you bitch!
Please. Yes.
Oh,
I
that's
didn't
a
break the
relief.
RAM. Then with the assembled motherboard back home, I'm mounting that, then the power
Okay.
supply, the
Okay.
wiring loom, the graphics card, the rear I/O panel, the graphics card mount, the various shiny bits, and then the plumbing. And for anything that doesn't have an O-ring seal, I'm using PTFE.
Where's the mount for the beautiful woman? Ayo?
Tape. And then mounting my pipes using our rotary fittings. And there's a couple more compression fittings to do up for the last time as well.
Let's see if it turns into a bright bonfire, no, right? Isn't that I would die for Denmark, I just wish we'd have a government that made it hard to do so without issue of the values they want you to die for. Yeah, a lot of Western governments, the values that they want you to die for, nobody's willing to die for those. And if they try to institute a draft, people are just going to dodge it, and there's not a soul alive in good faith that would blame them. I certainly wouldn't. But I'm also getting up there in age to where I'm aging out of any draft age, so I guess time is on my side in a sense, but pity the poor young people who have to come after me. Smell the plastic and aluminium broken down by heat, yeah.
And then the last thing is the power button. So everything is now completely assembled, and I'm starting to get that familiar kind of nervous feeling when I really hope I've assembled everything for the last time, and if anything goes wrong,
Here's hoping.
it's going to be hours or even days of work to kind of go back and fix it. And the last thing I'm going to do before filling it up is going to be the leak test. But because this thing's so small and this is massive, it's going to take about 5 minutes of pumping for me to even know if something's wide open or not. We're still on 0. Oh, we might be on half a PSI. Okay, we're at 1 PSI and it's not noticeably falling, and I can't hear any hisses. So that's good. That's a good start. That's leaking. Okay.
I think there'd be a machine
We're up
pump
to
he
5
could use.
PSI. Oh, and that gauge down there should be going up as well. Nice.
Well, you didn't bother to check. I mean, we see it rising over here.
We are on pretty much bang on 10 PSI. And 20 minutes in, we're still good, which is great.
Good.
Cool.
That face.
It's time to fill the loop. This is Future Felix, and what you're seeing here is the 8 hours of sped up footage that I took on the first day of filling the loop. I encountered a multitude of baffling and annoying problems that I couldn't figure out the cause of. The pump, even though there was no way for air to get in, constantly got filled up with air bubbles, didn't know where they were coming from. But in summary, at about 2 in the morning, I managed to finally successfully fill the loop. And you might be wondering why I'm not showing you all these problems and solutions that happened on that day. That is because they pale into insignificance compared to the problems that I faced after that. And I didn't want the video to be 3 hours of me moaning about why things aren't working. But on that day, I eventually got it to a point where I thought it worked, was absolutely knackered, and what you're going to see next is a tired version of me who naively thinks that the problems have come to an end and the difficult day he's had is over. So let's go back to past Felix, who has no idea that the next 2 weeks of his life are going to be spent at home having the worst time he's ever had building a computer. Let's go! So that took 18 litres of water to fill, so I was way off on my guess earlier in the video when I said it would hold 10 litres. And I'm also wondering how far off I was with my guess of this being a 50 kilogram radiator.
It was nearly
It
double.
might just be that I've been lugging it around and I'm knackered, but it feels like more than 50 kilograms. 99.4 kilograms, so minus the 18 kilograms of water, 81 kilograms. Minus maybe a few kilograms of copper and computer parts.
That's a big boy.
It's an 80 kilogram radiator, which
That's
is
a
more
big
than me.
boy.
This is by miles the hardest loop fill I've ever done. If something doesn't work that needs me to drain even some of the water out, it's just not going to be that fun.
Looks like he's already had to deal with some leaks there. You can tell on his carpet.
Alright, let's do it. I know all the parts work, so it's not quite as scary as some other builds I've done, but the result if it doesn't work is so much worse.
Look.
Absolutely nothing happened. Is the plug on? The plug was not on.
Okay.
One of the fans is catching.
Oh no!
No, it's not this. This took 5 minutes to fix.
Okay.
Fixed.
Okay.
Yes!
It booted. Yes. Brilliant. 2 weeks later.
So, this has been maybe one of the most frustrating 2 weeks of my entire life.
I thought for sure he was going to start with, son of a bitch. Poor man. He has put so much work into this. And 2 weeks in, and the bloody thing's breaking on him. Ah, I feel so bad for him. 'Cause, I mean, he's built something that's really worth being proud of. I mean, this was one hell of an undertaking. And, yeah, setbacks like this, so frustrating. I can totally relate. Let's see the update in a year or two when he gets evicted over water damage. Has the redo is flooding because of water damage, or his home burned down because he left it on while on vacation. I don't know if you dare do that. No. No way that would be safe. Not with all that. No. No.
So a few hours after my initial boot of the PC, the pump started making this annoying clicking noise. So I thought it was just some residual bubbles moving through the pump, but it
just hit that dial with a hammer, man. It'll be alright.
just kept getting worse. So I came to the conclusion that there was a bit of debris in the pump. So I took the entire thing to pieces again and did find a little bit of copper in the pump.
Whoa.
Which I'm not sure where it came from, but got that out, and just in case having that in there had damaged the pump, I swapped the pump for one that I know worked fine. I then filled it up again with water, turned it back on, and the pump was just making this sloshy, bubbly noise, meaning that there's air in the pump. So thinking I hadn't bled it properly, I moved it all around and did my best to get what I thought was the air out of the pipes. And bear in mind, every time I move this or turn it over, it's a massive ordeal because this thing weighs like 100 kilograms. So my floor, as you can maybe see, is kind of... I gave up trying to protect the paint on the floor after the first couple of days. But after I did everything I possibly could to get the air out of the pipes, it was still making that bubbly noise, and I knew that it wasn't because of a pocket of air in the pipes, because I spent literally 2 days moving it around, activating the pump, moving it around, activating the pump, to the point where there is no way that there could have been an air pocket in the pipes. So came to the conclusion that there was probably a very small leak before the pump in the area of negative pressure that wasn't enough for water to come out, but was enough for air to leak in, mixed with the water just before the pump, and that bubbly noise was just always there because of that. So I took everything apart again, did a better job of sealing it this time. I used these, what they call Doughty seals or something like that, rather than PTFE tape. So now
bonded seal. That's...
Used these, what they call Doughty seals or something like that.
Specialized washer comprising a metal outer ring and an inner rubber elastomer ring. Okay. So outside is metal, but it's got a rubber seal on the inside. Withstand pressures up to 20,000 psi. Okay, good idea.
Rather than PTFE tape. So now I know beyond any doubt that there are no leaks. I then filled it up again and turned it on. And as soon as I did a stress test, the CPU temperature just shot up to 95. And feeling the pipes, I could feel that even though the pressure on the pressure gauge was fine, meaning the pump is working fine, the water flow is incredibly slow. So I thought the only logical thing here is that my filters are getting clogged up. And looking at the magnetic filter that I put in, it was just covered in sludge. So it was doing its job, but the build-up was just stopping the flow of water.
Did it too well.
So at this point, I almost gave up because there's not really any way to stop that. I thought I'd cleaned the radiator. I think it's probably impossible to successfully clean this radiator, and I couldn't really see a way around it. Then after thinking for a couple of days, I went and bought myself 16 meters of flexible hose, and I came up with this system where the hoses, as you can see here, are permanently attached to the T-pieces in the plumbing. Then when I want to, I can run 8 meters of hose across my flat to the mains water supply and to the toilet. I can run the water backwards through the system, which will clean.
This seems an awful lot. It seems a bit much to run a PC. I'm just going to throw that out there. This seems to be a bit much. At some point, you have to ask, have I gone too far with this? I know he really wants it to work. I know we might have a bit of sunk cost fallacy working here, but my God, this is a lot. This is a lot to get a PC cooled by a Victorian radiator going. Interesting proof of concept, but Yeah, at this point, I think I would have stopped.
Clean out the filter without me having to kind of turn the PC over. So it's almost like a remote filter cleaning system. Then I can run the water back through the normal way to completely prime the pump and bleed the system. I can also flush out.
I could damage the water outlet plumbing on the property, which could also affect outgoing plumbing that connects to other homes. That is possible. I don't know. I would think that the water pressure would have to be fairly high to have any sort of impact on that. I could quickly add up to a lot of money. I mean, if it goes wrong, yeah. Thing starts spewing water everywhere, yeah, you could flood out your flat.
The main part of the radiator using the system, and then just add in my corrosion inhibitor to the top port here. I also completely removed the magnetic filter because it was just getting clogged up too quickly. And I also had this theory that the constant moving around of the radiator was actually dislodging a load of gunk that was causing the filters to get blocked up really quickly.
That's possible.
And having a way to kind of flush it through and clean out the filter without having to move it, I thought would help, because eventually all that stuff is going to settle to the bottom of the radiator, and the flow of water through the radiator isn't enough to really lift that stuff up. So I thought my filter clogging problem would probably be solved over time just as I let it sit and all the sediment will sink to the bottom. So I did all that and then filled it up, primed the pump, bled the system using the mains water pressure, which I know left no air bubbles at all, and then finally turned it on. And then the same thing happened. The pump had bubbles in. And I had no explanation as to why that was happening.
High, very high, I agree, yeah. Would never have done that with those little metal bits that could ruin PVC piping, yeah. The little copper bits in particular, I think that's left over when he was trying to store down each one of those little parts that he was having to connect together, and he might have just forgotten to give them all proper cleaning. I mean, like a really thorough cleaning. I know he kind of brushed through and polished them and everything, but I don't know. It's easy to kind of armchair quarterback this sort of thing. A lot harder to actually do it. So more power to him for all of this. This is incredible effort.
That's completely submerged in the water, and I've only got it running off.
Might have lost my temper for a minute. You know what? Nobody could blame you, lad. Nobody could blame you. I would be getting a bit pissy too if I had setback after setback happening to me with something like this. So yeah, I would be proper cross, especially after all this work.
This pipe, and it goes directly to the pump. And that was maybe the most demotivating.
Even if it doesn't affect piping in his neighborhood, it could go down the water treatment station. Even if metal dust isn't responsible, he could be held legally liable for something broken. Even if it isn't directly his fault, could get him dragged into legal trouble for years. That is possible. Never underestimate the pettiness of any level of the British government.
Motivating point of the entire build. I'd done like everything I possibly could, and I didn't know why it wasn't working. Then at that point I realised that specific time one of the hoses wasn't attached properly, so that was just letting in air bubbles. But then there were air bubbles in it, so I did the entire thing again, finally turned it on, and then the pump was making that clicking noise again that it was the first time. So flipped it over, drained the water out again, looked at the inside of the pump, and again there was just a tiny little bit of metal in there. So cleaned it out again, and here we are nearly 2 weeks later, and I think everything's set up for it to work.
Maybe. You hope so. Oh, please work. He's been through so much already.
Now it is really nice and quiet.
I'm sorry, what did I say? Dear evangelical Linux users, yes, I installed Windows. Yeah, you know what? All of you Linux autists out there, chill. Okay? Yes, we know Linux is a superior product. Still doesn't have widespread acceptance. When Linux starts getting government contracts around the world, then we can talk, okay? In the meantime, sit down, steady on, chill.
Now it is really nice and quiet. However, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to stop the pump having the occasional kind of air bubble or little click of debris going through it, because my filter is...
That's alright, the clicky sounds make it sound like it's working.
0.1 millimeters, and I think the tolerances of how these pumps work, I think particles even smaller than that might whiz through, make it go slightly off balance to make a little ticking noise. So you do get the occasional little click. But when I'm over here, it is genuinely pretty much silent. So before I do any of the thermal testing that I normally do, I'm going to do something that I've been looking forward to for months, which is to play Halo 3 online in my own living room.
Oh, lovely. 1 minute 40 seconds of Halo 3 gameplay coming up. Right, let's move on to
Water's
thermal
currently
testing.
at ambient temperature, which is about 14 degrees. I like it quite cold in here. I'm running Cinebench to stress test the CPU. Immediately,
I like
everything
his keyboard.
jumps to 60, 70 degrees. And because we have 100 kilograms of water and cast iron to heat up, I think it's probably going to stay there for several hours. Okay, and we are 21 minutes in, and all the CPU cores are in the low 70s. They have averaged 68 to 75. The highest temperature recorded anywhere in the CPU during those 20 minutes was 80.2 degrees. And the water temperature has gone from 14 to 16. I'm running all these tests
that's
with the
excellent.
fans at 10% just to move a bit of air. The motherboard VRM peaked at 54 degrees, the RAM peaked at 37 degrees, and the GPU peaked at 23 degrees. So pretty healthy. And remember, this
Not
CPU
bad.
doesn't throttle
Not bad
till
at all.
95, so we're way off that. I could probably have the ambient room temperature 15 degrees higher and we'd still be just about okay. I actually forgot to show you idle temperatures first. So the water's currently at 16 degrees. CPU cores are all 19 to 22. Chipsets at 44. VRM's at 37. And the GPU is at 22.
Very good.
So now I'm going to do
That's
about
good.
half an hour of Thermark and see what happens. And immediately with 16 degree water, the GPU is at 50 and it's pulling 360 to 370 watts. CPU cores are in the 20s and 30s.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
So we are still stress testing the GPU. We've just hit the 30-minute mark, and the water temperature has gone from, what was it, 16 and a half to 19 and a half in half an hour. So maybe I could have called it 50-90. GPU's been putting out a pretty consistent 360 watts, and during that time the GPU peaked at 55 degrees, and it doesn't throttle till the high 80s, so we're absolutely fine there. The CPU cores in that time have been averaging 29 to 37 and peaked at 47. So far, pretty damn good. So now we're going to go for a full system torture test, which is going to be maxing the GPU and the CPU at the same time. Now, something I noticed when filling and bleeding the loop was that the very fine filter I have in there quite heavily restricts the flow of water. And the flow looked like it was maybe half what I'd expect using this pump in a normal water-cooled build. So I think if there is going to be any thermal throttling, it will be because of the flow of water rather than the cooling of the water. So the water is currently at 20 degrees, and I'm going to fire up Cinebench while we're running Thermark and see what happens. And after 1 minute, the CPU cores are now all in the 80s. We have seen a 90 degree temperature on one of the sensors, but everything else seems to be right now comfortable in the mid 80s. Remember, the CPU doesn't throttle till 95. The GPU is still fairly comfortable at 60 degrees, and it's hit 380 watts, so 20 watts more than its TDP. CPU is still pulling over 140, so we're at 520 watts right now running through this radiator. And remember, no game is going to do this. No game is going to be running 140 watts in the CPU.
No, this is testing it to the most extreme limits. Let's go to real life testing.
That way. And with those settings enabled, which are fans completely off, pump only comes on when the CPU or GPU is over 50 degrees, I'm going to do a few more real world tests just to see how the thermals perform on this thing, you know, in day-to-day life. So starting off easy, I've got a game downloading, and then I'm going to watch
Poppy playtime.
4K content on YouTube. So we're about an hour and a half into watching YouTube and downloading stuff, and the water has equalized at 17 degrees in a 16 degree room. So obviously it's not the most
holding
strenuous
steady,
test.
that's good.
So we're going to step it up a notch and go back to my old favorite Halo 3. And at 4K with everything on max, the frame rate hasn't gone below 400 and is sometimes hitting 700 or 800, but that's pretty unnecessary.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to cap it at 180, I think, for the rest of the test and play this for a couple of hours. So I've played about an hour and a half of Halo 3. We've been drawing an average of around 170 watts. It is 17 degrees in this room right now, and the water temperature is equalized at 20 degrees, so 3 over ambient. But that's only using about a third of this computer's power. So let's try something that might get a bit closer to maxing this thing out. I've not played this game before, but it's pretty awesome.
Spider-Man.
And playing Spider-Man 2, this was definitely much more of a test for this PC, and we totaled an average
Not
of
played
about
this one yet.
350 watts. And an
Looks
hour and a
like
half
fun.
in, our water temperature equalised at about 10 degrees over ambient. And both components were still perfectly well cooled at 60 and 65 degrees. I think if anything's going to overheat it, it's going to be a couple of hours of Cyberpunk. I can't quite get running with everything.
I was going to say, Cyberpunk or Helldivers, both can really be taxing on a PC. When I start playing both Helldivers and Cyberpunk, Helldivers again, I'm going to have to make sure that I keep everything on the lowest possible settings, because Helldivers has had a tendency to overtax my PC to the point where it starts interrupting stream.
Thing on max. So I've turned down a couple of the psycho setting options until I'm getting just over 60 FPS. We've been playing for about an hour and a half. I'm trying to run around a lot of bits with, a lot of physics going on to really stress the CPU as much as possible, because the GPU is just going to be maxed all the time. We've pulled an average of about 400 watts through this whole test. CPU and GPU are both very well cooled still, both in the 60s, and the water temperature, which has remained the same for the last 20 minutes or so, has peaked at 12 degrees over ambient. So while this can't run Cyberpunk at
really
max
good.
settings at 4K, when you do max it with one of the most graphically intense games ever made, everything is still very well cooled, which is awesome.
Good. It's really good. Conclusions.
So, final thoughts. Was this worth it? Well, I'm very glad I made it. I'm very glad it's finished. Would I do it again? Absolutely not. It was a difficult build,
Are you
but I
mad?
enjoyed that part of it. I did not enjoy getting it to work once I'd finished building it. I think if I was to do another cast iron radiator build, I would come at it differently. I'd probably have a water-to-water heat exchanger and 2 separate pumped loops of water, so that I didn't need to deal with the stuff from the radiator going through the rest of the PC, because that caused nothing but problems and is definitely going to require some maintenance moving forward. I'm probably going to have to flush this out several times before it stops putting bits from the radiator through the pump, which I will do and I will keep on top of, and I'm sure I'm going to be really happy with this for the next few years at least. I also absolutely love how it looks. I can't imagine a better looking computer, and even though I've built some pretty crazy computers before, visually this is by far my favourite one. Now, for the past couple of weeks I've been working on this at home basically full time, and even though my girlfriend is very supportive of my wacky endeavours, I haven't spent a huge amount of time with her, so I'm going to show her what has replaced her for the last couple of weeks.
There's the girlfriend.
God, where's this other woman?
This is rad.
It's Rachel. Oh my god, she's so shiny. I don't really know what to say. It's wild.
Do you want to turn him on?
Do you trust me?
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is the lever.
That's the lever I got on
Oh
eBay.
my god. What do I do?
Press it down and then let go.
No.
Yeah, let
Just
go.
like that.
Yeah,
Oh my
and then
God.
wait.
I can hear
Things
the
are working.
fans. Is it? Oh my god, I can hear him. Holy world, this is wild. Oh my god, these are good.
They're good, right?
Oh my god. Oh my god, what? Hang on, what are these doing? Is this
The left one is the pressure. The right one is the temperature of the water.
Is this good? Okay, so my review. F***ing cool as I like the mixed metals. She's barely makes a noise. Oh, sorry.
Compared to Wally at work.
Wally's loud. I like it almost feels like not real because it's so cool. Like all the hours and hours of work. I think it's potentially maybe your best.
Oh, you think? I've had the least fun building it.
You're telling me.
But I think the end result is my favourite.
So will Reddy get really hot?
Gets to 29 degrees. But currently it's like 15 degrees in here. So in the middle of summer it might be 30 degrees in here.
A leopard jacket and what looks like a mop underneath. Yeah. Well, to her credit, she's supportive. She's very supportive of him. So that's a good thing.
So then the water might get to like 50.
Looks like she's wearing a mop's cloth.
I'm going to embarrass myself.
A bit, yeah.
Is the CPU under here
The
somewhere?
CPU is under there somewhere.
And it's square.
It is square.
Love it, babes. Well done.
So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate all of you. We're still getting a huge amount more views on our videos than we have subscribers. So yeah, would really appreciate if you subscribed, if you want to, if you like the content.
We'll
I'll
drop
see you
a
for the
sub.
next video, which we haven't started yet, but I think it's probably going to be my attempt to build the world's smallest 5090 gaming PC. I have a design for one that is potentially under 7 litres with enough cooling for a 5090. For that, I'm going to need one of these specific 5090 graphics cards. So just throwing this out there, if you are a manufacturer or a seller of one of these cards, I'm not asking for a free one, I just want to buy it at retail price.
Would take a free
if you
one.
can make that happen, please get in touch. Much love, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Alright, that was good content. That was good content. Go ahead and
This
drop
is fine.
that.
Whoa, that's
Doesn't it look
outrageous.
outrageous?
That's good. That's good content. Okay. Go ahead and drop that in the Twitch chat. Kick chat. Let me see here. I'm going to try and refresh Rumble Studio. And then go ahead and drop that in the Rumble chat also.